Welcome back to Psych Vids. Today, we are focusing on loss aversion. This is a fascinating explainer because we're going to pull back the curtain on this invisible force that's basically secretly running your life. I mean, it dictates the things you buy, the daily habits you keep, and even the people you choose to spend your time with. It's this evolutionary quirk that every single one of us shares, and recognizing it is absolutely the first step to making better, way more rational choices in your day-to-day life. So settle in because we're going to completely change the way you look at winning and losing. Okay, let's dive right into this with a quick mental exercise. Imagine you're walking down the street, you look down, and right there on the sidewalk is a crisp $50 bill. You pick it up. Just think about that little burst of joy, That tiny thrill of getting something for absolutely nothing. It feels great, right? Well, now I want you to imagine a totally different scenario. You're at a coffee shop, you reach into your pocket or your bag, and you realize you dropped $50 somewhere. You've lost it. Think about that feeling. That awful sinking sensation in your stomach, the frustration, the pure annoyance at yourself. Now ask yourself, which feeling was stronger? The joy of the surprise 50 or the sting of the lost 50? Because for almost every single human being on Earth, the pain of losing that money stings far, far more than the joy of finding it. And there's an actual mathematical reason for that. The core rule of our psychology is pretty stark. Research shows that the psychological pain of a loss hits us roughly twice as hard as the joy of an equivalent gain. Literally 2 times. Think of it like this. If you gain something, your mental happiness scale might go up 1 notch. But if you lose that exact same thing, your happiness scale plummets 2 notches. This means you don't just dislike losing, you are fundamentally wired to be a terribly sore loser. The stakes are just completely uneven in your own mind. So what we're talking about here is called loss aversion. It's a cognitive bias where the emotional pain of losing something feels significantly more powerful than the pleasure of gaining it. But hey, we aren't here to just read textbook definitions. What we really need to understand is how this asymmetry, this totally uneven scale of pain and pleasure, dictates our everyday decisions. I mean, it stops being some dry academic theory the moment you refuse to clean out your closet because you might need those old clothes someday, or when you stay at a job you absolutely dislike just because it's familiar. Section 1. The survival mismatch. Why our brains fear winning. To really grasp this, we have to look at why we're built this way in the first place. Thousands of years ago, the reality for our ancient ancestors was brutal. If you lost a day's worth of food or you lost your shelter, the consequence wasn't just, a bad mood. It was literally death. Avoiding a loss was quite literally a matter of basic survival. But on the other hand, if you gained an extra day's worth of food, well, that was just a nice bonus. You were full for the night, but it didn't change the game. Evolution didn't reward the optimists who took massive risks for a bonus. It rewarded the deeply paranoid people who fiercely protected what little they already had. And guess what? We are the descendants of those paranoid survivors. So today, even when the stakes are just a $50 bill or some minor inconvenience, your brain's ancient fear centers still light up as if your very life is in danger. Section 2. Everyday traps. How loss aversion secretly controls you. That ancient wiring leads us straight into our modern problems. Because marketers, app developers, and salespeople, they understand this psychological quirk perfectly, and they design the modern world to trigger it constantly. We have all fallen for this one. Step 1. You see an offer for a 30-day free trial. You think, great, no risk, I've got nothing to lose. Step 2. You use the app. Maybe it's a fitness tracker or a streaming service, and it becomes part of your routine. You start to feel like it belongs to you. Then, step 3, day 29 arrives. It's time to cancel. But now, your brain doesn't see canceling as saving $15 a month, because you already feel like you own the service. Giving it up triggers that exact same pain center. It feels like a painful loss. Companies are directly leveraging this feeling of ownership to turn a simple saved expense into something your brain wants to fiercely protect. And this creates a massive disconnect between what we think we're doing and what our brains are actually doing in the background. Logically, you sign up for a gym to get fit, right? But eventually you stop going. You keep paying that monthly fee not because you're actually getting fit, but to avoid the regret and the perceived failure of canceling. You're literally paying a monthly fee just to avoid feeling a loss. Or think about online shopping. Your logical goal is finding a good deal. But when you see that flashing red banner that says, only 2 items left at this price, your brain completely abandons logic. You aren't buying the item because you need it, you're buying it because you are terrified of missing out on the deal. But the dark side of this bias goes way beyond impulse purchases and unused gym memberships. It fundamentally alters our major life paths. People will hold on to crashing stocks, refusing to sell because selling means making the loss real. Instead, they just ride bad investments all the way to the absolute bottom. And it happens in our personal lives too. Think about how many people stick with toxic jobs or bad relationships simply because the idea of starting over feels like throwing away years of effort. They fear losing what they already have, even if what they have is making them totally miserable. And on a smaller daily scale, think about maintaining those silly app streaks. You log into an app every single day not because you're actually learning or enjoying it, but purely out of fear of breaking a digital streak and losing that arbitrary number. Loss aversion just paralyzes us from seeking better opportunities.
Section 3. How to beat the bias, rewiring your choices.
Okay, there is good news here. Once you see the strings, you can stop being the puppet. You don't have to let a caveman survival instinct dictate your modern life. The very first step is to actively reframe your choices. Right now, your default setting is to look at a new opportunity and ask, well, what will I lose if I try this and it goes wrong? But you need to flip the script entirely. You need to start asking, what am I losing right now by staying exactly the same? Expose the hidden cost of doing nothing. If you stay in the bad job, you are actively losing the opportunity for a better salary or a happier life. By reframing the status quo as a loss itself, you can essentially trick your brain into taking positive action. Let's move to some quick, empowering strategies you can start using immediately. First, focus on long-term net outcomes. Don't look at the day-to-day fluctuations or the minor setbacks. Zoom out and look at where a decision puts you 5 years from now. Second, use pre-mortem thinking. This one is incredibly powerful. Imagine you make a decision and, actually, scratch that. Pretend it's a year later and the decision was a complete disaster. Work backward to figure out why it failed. This totally separates pure logic from the raw emotion of the present moment. And finally, set strict rules in advance. If you're investing, decide exactly when you will sell before you ever even buy the stock. If you have rules established when you're calm, you won't panic when the emotional pain of a loss tries to take over the driver's seat. Which brings us to the ultimate mental tool, the absolute best reframing question. Memorize this. If I didn't already own this, would I buy it today? Apply this to literally everything. That shirt hanging in the back of your closet that you never wear. If you saw it in a store today, would you buy it? If no, get rid of it. That subscription you barely use. If you weren't already signed up, would you pull out your credit card today to start it? If no, cancel it. By pretending you don't already own the thing, you strip away the emotional weight of ownership, and you can finally see its true logical value. And that brings us to our final, provocative thought for this explainer. As you navigate your choices this week, I want you to stop and ask yourself this one simple question. Are you making this choice to pursue a meaningful gain in your life, or are you just playing defense? Are you just acting out of a deep-seated fear of avoiding a loss? Because life is way too short to just play not to lose. You have to play to win. Take a moment to really think about the decisions you're making right now and see which side of the equation is driving you. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode.